I don't know if you saw, but Anna Kasparian had an issue with one of the questions that I asked Chomsky, and that was about TYT and about independent media. What I'm trying to get at here is, do you think it's concerning that there are self-proclaimed progressive media outlets who have adopted this sort of neo-McCarthyism, who have adopted imperialist talking points against Russia, against Syria, against China? Do you find that concerning, that folks who think that they're on the left are being fed these imperialist talking points?
Tell me exactly what you're talking about. What charge are you claiming is taking up the imperialist line?
Well, specifically, when you have Aaron Mate, who reported on the OPCW whistleblower report, who has reported on what's been happening on the ground in Syria, who won an award for debunking Russiagate and showing how Russiagate was a complete fraud. When you have progressive media outlets trying to slander him and smear him, saying that he is being paid for by the Russians.
Well, what slander do you have in mind?
Saying that he's being paid for by the Russians because of the fact
that if anybody says that, of course, I would condemn it. I also thought that Russiagate was a total fraud and said so openly. I get slandered all the time. You want a list? I'll send you my mail sometime.
Her whole take on that is that I was asking Noam Chomsky about Twitter drama. But the issue that I was trying to get at here was the capture of independent media, the fact that Jeffrey Katzenberg gave $20 million to the Young Turks, the fact that the Intercept is owned by a billionaire, that Democracy Now! Receives Ford Foundation money, and that this big money is influencing independent media, which I thought, the guy that wrote Manufacturing Consent, it would be good to kind of ask him about these things. But, he was unfamiliar with some of this, it seemed like. I guess he's not, a TYT member, doesn't really follow them. So, I mean, that's what I was getting at. And she was critical. I don't know if you saw the whole interview, but I don't know. Did you kind of get to?
I saw a lot of the interview, but I didn't see all of it. I missed that part.
Yeah. Well, again, he wasn't really following the line of questioning. So it came off a bit awkwardly because I had to repeat it several times. He thought at one point that I was accusing Amy Goodman of receiving Russian money. That was the opposite of what I was trying to say. But
the parts I saw, he seemed lost on a lot of stuff. He seemed to struggle with basic questions. Like just your question about, tell me about a movie you liked. Like you had to ask that question 3 times before you could get an answer from him.
Yeah. Well, I think that the trouble with the independent media question is that he just wasn't familiar about this. He didn't know that Jeffrey Katzenberg had given $20 million to the Young Turks. But again, I think that this is important. And, I wish that Noam Chomsky was kind of aware of these facts, because I'd love to have the insight of the guy who wrote Manufacturing Consent on the capture of progressive media. And, we could have gone a little more in depth. Again, it was a little hard to kind of have that part of the conversation. I wish that we could have gotten to the fact that Anna Kasparian, while Jeffrey Katzenberg was lobbying the Los Angeles City Council to pass anti-camping laws, that she randomly one day in June started ranting against the homeless.
I do think that there are progressives, I don't know if it's progressive policy, but progressives in places like California who have made terrible decisions. And so one of those terrible decisions is essentially doing away with anti-camping laws, right? Allowing people to camp out wherever they want, whenever they want. And if, we have a homeless problem in California, we have it all throughout the country, but it's particularly bad in California. And so the argument is, well, if there isn't public housing available for people, they should be allowed to camp out. Okay, but there's also a problem right now where there is public housing available and individuals will say, no, I don't want to take it. I don't want to follow the rules in the public housing. And so as a result, I would rather camp out. Progressive lawmakers are like, we should allow them to camp out. And you know what happens? Crime happens. Open air drug markets happen, and it's the truth. These are the facts of the matter. In fact, it was addressed in this Daily Beast article, and honestly, it was cathartic to read it because everyone denies that this is happening.
I think that's something that should be focused on by the left, is the capture of independent media, of the fact that imperialism and things like anti-homeless ordinances are being kind of pushed on the left.
That was a remarkable video to see Anna Kasparian sound like just a despicable human being, like just an out-of-touch oligarch. She sounded like, she was calling homeless people criminals. And she was angry, and she had vitriol for them and anger for the homeless people in Los Angeles and how we got to start treating them more like criminals. At the same time, Jeffrey Katzenberg was lobbying the LA City Council to do just that, criminalize homelessness. And so, yeah, and then of course she caught hell for it on social media, so she had to walk it back, like they walk back everything, and they pretend like they never said it. Just like they didn't. Just like Cenk is now pretending he didn't say Julian Assange can't be trusted, and that he repeated CIA talking points that were lies about Julian Assange on his own show, saying that Julian Assange had met with Manafort. No, those were straight up lies. I debunked them in real time. He repeated them uncritically, and then went on to say you can't trust Julian Assange because he's working for Trump. He's picked a side. That's what Cenk Uygur said about Julian Assange, and now he's trying to whitewash that. He did it today on Twitter.
Yeah, and you know, it's so prevalent. It's not just the Young Turks. I mean, I think that, you know, they're the most prominent example and the one that we could speak to the most. And just so you know, too, I've extended an offer to Cenk to donate $5,000 to any charity of his choice if he'd like to come on this show and just debunk all of these claims that are being made about the influence of Jeffrey Katzenberg's money. You know, if it is completely false, then he's welcome to sit down and discuss it. He should be able to debunk it pretty easily. But again, the larger point that I was trying to make to Chomsky, you know, is it's not the Twitter drama of TYT, you know, who received Katzenberg money, slandering and smearing an award-winning journalist as being a Russian agent or an Assadist. It's not just that. It's the fact that the Intercept, Democracy Now!, Sam Cedar, all of these breadtube influencers, they're all pushing imperialist talking points and attacking the anti-imperialist left, which is, you know, I think that this is the most important thing for the left to be kind of discussing right now, is what this crossroads really means.
Well, you saw Cenk Uygur, I don't know if you saw, but Cenk Uygur went on Rising, slandered me, said I lied when I said that Cenk Uygur was for bombing Syria. He said, I never advocated bombing Syria. And then, of course, I said, well, there is this video of you arguing for bombing Syria for 10 straight minutes to my face. There's that, you fucking liar.
Look, I'm going to take you guys on that, okay? Because, so we can't bomb Russia if Russia uses chemical weapons because we don't want to start World War III. You're right, absolutely, right? Okay, but why don't we take the low-lying fruit? Okay, like send a message wherever we practically can. So North Korea, I'd love to decapitate all the leaders in North Korea and set that country free. But we might lose Seoul, South Korea, and millions of people. We can't do it, right? And if we can do it in Syria and help some people, well, okay, that's a good place to start.
Well, the reason why you can't selectively enforce the law is because it breeds disrespect and contempt for the law. So if you're trying to uphold international law selectively, you're doing the exact opposite. You're undermining international law because we illegally invaded Iraq, and a million people were killed, displaced other millions, countless. How many thousands of innocent people were killed in that? That was an illegal war. We lied about it. If nobody kept us in check, somehow we have to still keep other people in check. I said it yesterday, you can't have Tony Soprano giving out parking tickets. It doesn't fucking work.
Yeah. He's completely captured, right? And why would he smear Julian Assange and now say he didn't? So he had to do that for a donor. He had to signal a donor or someone inside the Democratic Party. And we all saw him lie about forced to vote when he said McCarthy could become speaker. People still repeat that on Twitter to me on a daily basis, that McCarthy could have became speaker because of forced to vote. That was a lie that he propagated, that he pushed. That's a straight up lie. And also David Sirota argued that point on my show and then walked it back. So that was the talking point for people who wanted to have access to the squad. They had to say McCarthy could become speaker to scare the hell out of people, and that wasn't true. So why would Cenk Uygur lie? That's not a mistake. That's not Cenk Uygur getting something wrong. That's a conscious lie, just like when CNN lied about Joe Rogan. Why are you doing that? Why are you committing a conscious lie? What does he get out of that? Just like when he lied about Julian Assange meeting with Manafort. We knew that was a lie. Everybody at the Aggressive Progressives knew that was a fucking joke. It got repeated nowhere. No one even picked that up except the Young fucking Turks. And they, by the way, they haven't retracted that. So you tell me why they haven't retracted that.
Right. But again, I think that the larger issue is the fact that, you know, voices like yours are kind of getting pushed out of these institutions. So, you know, like I believe you were made to not feel welcome at the Young Turks after a while.
Of course, they turned their back on us. We would walk in to into the newsroom. They turn their back on us because we were debunking their fucking bullshit in real time. In real time, we were making them look like the clowns that they are. And how could you not have resentment for that? And they are fucking clowns. And they never apologized for 4 straight years of fucking McCarthyism and red baiting everybody, and including the president of the United States and anybody who had a different narrative than him. And now he says we're right wingers after he takes $24 million from Jeffrey Katzenberg. And the thing I love about Ryan Grim on Rising is that he doesn't take a check from one billionaire. He takes a check from 3 different billionaires. So these are the people who ran interference on Force the Vote. Ryan Grim, the DC Bureau Inter-Chief for the Intercept, gets paid by Pierre Omidyar. He gets paid by the billionaire who owns The Hill, a right-wing billionaire who owns and he gets paid by Jeffrey Katzenberg, another billionaire who owns the Young Turks. And that guy is out there somehow. He's the progressive voice of journalism. Every time something progressive comes up, Ryan Grim seems to fucking kneecap it, just like Force the Vote, just like the Medicare for all, just like the Medicare for All march in 50 cities. He shit on it. And none of those people showed up to even cover it. The Young Turks didn't even fucking cover it. So you want to know what the corporate capture of indie media means? That's what it means. If your show appears on a Comcast platform, you're not independent fucking media.
Right. Yeah, and again, like anyone who kind of is anti-establishment at these different outlets seems to be getting pushed out. So again, you were pushed out, as were other folks at the Young Turks. Glenn Greenwald was pushed out from the Intercept. Matt Taibbi was seemingly pushed out from Rolling Stone. That's and right. It just seems as though they want to isolate folks like you more and more and kind of get them outside of independent media.
Well, that's exactly of course, that's what it is. And of course, they have the demonization. They do the smear articles, and they've all done them. And my favorite thing was when that douchebag Nathan Robinson retweeted, said he tweeted out that Jimmy Dore is he seems to only attack lefties, and this guy doesn't know he doesn't have any solidarity. And then the next day he fired everybody for trying to unionize at his fucking magazine. So I don't know how that douchebag's ever going to make it back, but we will.